Hello everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we'll be learning about triangles. Not just about the basic shape, but more about how to classify them and the different kinds. Now, what makes a triangle a triangle? What are things that we see that tell us, oh, this is a triangle? Well, first, let's state the obvious. It has 3 sides. Just like how a square has 4, a triangle has 3. The second requirement is that all 3 angles must add up to 180 degrees. Now, these 3 numbers can be any numbers. They can be 30, 60, and 90. They could be 25, 60, and 95. But the main thing is that all 3 angles do add up to 180 degrees. Lastly, a triangle requires a base and a height. What is a basin height? Well, this is really important terminology. So I'm just gonna state this right here, but if I use this little square here, it means that that angle is 90 degrees. Anyway, so this thing, what it's sitting on, what the whole triangle is sitting on, is the base. If you rotate it, the base may change. This is called the height. This is how tall the triangle is. And this is called the hypotenuse. We're not going to be using this a lot today, but it becomes more important when we learn about the Pythagorean theorem. Now we're going to classify triangles based on their sides. So here we have an equilateral triangle. And I suggest you write all this terminology down because it's all really important terminology when it comes to basic geometry. This is called an isosceles triangle. Remember to write this down and don't forget how to spell it. And lastly, the last kind of triangle looks something along the lines of this. You've probably seen this a lot. And this is called a scalene triangle. Now, what makes each triangle like this? Well, firstly, an equilateral triangle. All 3 sides are equal, hence equal in the beginning. Now, if we draw our attention to the isosceles triangle, well, here, 2 of the sides are the same, but 1 of them is different. And lastly, let's go on to the last one. Well, what do you think? In this case, all 3 sides are different lengths. Now, let's go ahead and classify triangles based on their angles. So first, I'm going to draw this angle right here, but I want to write this down because it's really important. Whenever you have an obtuse or a right angle in the triangle, it can be only one, they essentially overpower the acute angles. Now, if you don't understand what I mean, well, let's take the triangle that I drew. It has one obtuse angle, as you can see, because it's more than 90 degrees, and it has 2 acute angles, this one and this one. Now, if we refer back, the obtuse angle is going to overpower the other angles. So we call this an obtuse triangle because it has one angle that's obtuse, but it overpowers the acute. So now we know the triangle above is an obtuse triangle. Now, let's move on to a triangle that looks like this. You may have seen this before, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later. So, this is an isosceles triangle, and we've heard that term before. And remember when I said the obtuse and right angles overpower the acute? Well, what if there are only acute angles? We get an acute triangle because there are no other angles to overpower them, so they take the power. So this triangle up here is an acute triangle. Now, let's go on to the last triangle. Now, this triangle you may have also seen before. This has 3 different lengths for all 3 sides, and we classify this as a scalene triangle. And it has a right angle. And if we go back, when we have a right angle or an obtuse angle, it overpowers the acute angles. And since we do have a right angle, in this example, we have a right triangle. Now, let's look at this right triangle. Well, if we go back, it's also a scalene triangle. And if we look at our acute triangle, it's also an isosceles triangle, And the obtuse triangle is also an equilateral triangle. So this means that all of the classifications do overlap, which may help you a lot. Now we're going to go ahead and classify a couple triangles. This one has 3 different lengths for the sides, and we are going to classify this triangle in angles and in sides. So, it has a right angle. And what did we say before? That the right angle is going to overpower the acute ones. So this one is a right triangle. And we also know that there are 3 different lengths for the sides, which also tells us that it is a scalene triangle as well. So here we've classified the triangle in sides, scalene, and angles, right. Now you guys are going to do a problem all by yourself. You're going to classify 3 different triangles, applying everything that we've learned today. So the first one has the same length for all 3 sides, second different lengths for one of the sides, and third one, all 3 of the lengths of the sides are different, and I went ahead and drew the angles for you. Now classify this in angles and in sides. 30 seconds. Did you do it? Let's check if you got it correct. I'm just going to go ahead and erase the question so I have more room to write. So, in this first triangle, all 3 sides are the same length, which tells us that this triangle is, in terms of sides, an equilateral triangle. Now, let's go ahead into classifying it by angles. It has 3 acute angles because none of them are right and none of them are obtuse. So we know it is an acute triangle. Now, let's go ahead for this one. 2 of the sides are the same, but one is different, which tells us it's isosceles, and all of the angles are also acute, which tells us it's an acute triangle. Lastly, all 3 sides are different lengths for the third one, so we know it's a scalene triangle and it has one right angle, which tells us it's a right triangle. Congrats, you made it to the end of this video. Whether it's you needed help with this concept, you wanted some extra practice, or just wanted to review, I hope you learned something new or got some practice in. It would mean the world to me if you subscribed and hit the notification bell. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up or give it a thumbs down. It just tells me if I need to improve anything on my videos. And don't feel afraid to leave a comment down below about any suggestions for my videos. Now, if my comments are turned off, I do have the discussion page, and I'll show you how to navigate on that quickly so that you can see how to give me recommendations for videos. From my homepage, go ahead and click the discussion tab. From there, you should see an option to add a public comment. Go ahead and type your comment, and I should be able to see it.